In my last video, I talked about how the regime's escalating oppression can actually backfire on them. Their goal is to make everybody lay down and surrender. Their goal is to get us to become compliant and to accept their authoritarian takeover of the United States. They only know threats, intimidation, and violence. When they don't get their way, all they know how to do is more of those three things, because they have no capability to govern legitimately and they don't have the support of the people. So they've got to try and coerce people into submission. And they think if I'm bigger and scarier, if I make more threats, if I hurt more people, if I try to cheat really hard and obviously in a way where I'm like, you can't stop me, they think that nobody can stop them. They think that we will just give up. And what we're seeing across the United States is that they are eliciting this massive backlash on all, like literally all fronts. Everything Donald Trump is doing is making him more unpopular. Everything the Republicans are doing is making them more unpopular. Everything they are trying to employ across the United States is activating more and more people for the resistance and turning more and more people off to like their vision of America. We don't want that for ourselves. We don't want that for our children. And in my last video, I was referencing Erica Chenoweth and Maria Stephan's book, Why Civil Resistance Works, in particular, what they have to say on escalating repression backfiring on the regime. And one of the things that it said was that it draws more people into the movement. More people become motivated to work for the opposition, to fight against the regime. And also, it caused support for the regime to wane. And I want to focus on that second one in particular in this video. Now, we could talk directly about unforced errors, in particular, the attempt by the Republicans to push through this SAVE Act that would disenfranchise tens of millions of voters, mostly women. So Donald Trump and the Republicans know if we have free and fair elections, they're going to get absolutely obliterated in the midterms. After all, the things that they're doing are incredibly unpopular. And it's not just Donald Trump, right? Republicans are just rubber stamping everything that he wants. They are the ones who have made cuts to SNAP and Medicaid. They're the ones who've taken tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of our taxpayer money and funneled it into DHS and ICE's reign of terror. Republicans are the ones who are allowing Donald Trump to do all of this. After all, it is Republicans in Congress who could stop this whenever they want, and they're choosing not to. And that's pissing off the voters. So they sure can't have free and fair elections in the midterms, or they're gonna get booted out of Congress, and they want to hold on to their power. Donald Trump warned Republicans recently in a meeting at the Kennedy Center, House Republicans. He said, if you guys lose the midterms, then I'm going to get impeached. And he was really upset about that. So Republicans have been pulling out all of the stops to disenfranchise voters, right? And that's been going on for several months. Last year, we saw Texas Republicans go ahead and gerrymander the state of Texas very badly. And then appeals court said, no, you can't do that. But then the Supreme Court was like, yeah, go ahead, do a gerrymander. That's fine with us. That's backfired because California has done their own gerrymandering that wasn't done behind the backs and around the will of the people, but with the consent of the people through an initiative process. But there's more to it than that, right? The problems that Republicans have made for themselves in blatantly, overtly doing mid-decade gerrymandering, they're compounding significantly. I want to reference this piece here from the 14th of February, Valentine's Day, that came out in the Politico. South Texas will never be red again. Home builders warn GOP over Trump's immigration raids. Gosh, y'all, the construction executives, they're not too happy. The men who own these big construction companies, they're not happy that DHS is abducting all of their skilled construction workers. Maybe y'all shouldn't have been letting DHS raid construction sites for months and months on end, depleting your workforce. Now you're mad about it. Anyway, so home builders are warning Donald Trump that his aggressive immigration enforcement efforts are hurting their industry. They're cautioning that Republican candidates could be hurt too. Yeah, let's not delude ourselves into thinking that these construction companies are not already big Republican supporters. Let's not fool ourselves into thinking that they care about immigrants. They care about their bottom line. So the construction executives have held these meetings over the last month with the White House and Republicans in Congress to discuss how immigration busts on job sites and in communities are scaring away employees, making it more expensive to build homes in a market that is already desperate for new supply. Beyond the affordability issue, after all, Donald Trump said he wanted to keep housing prices sky high, right? The executives made an electability argument, raising concerns to GOP leaders that support among Hispanic voters is eroding, particularly in regions that swung for Trump in 2024. And this is how repression backfires, right? You see support pulling away from the regime. It's not that people have become like woke Democrats. It's that they're like, I don't like what these guys are doing. I don't want to support this anymore. You find that they start to swing toward Democrats. They start to listen to Democrats because they don't like what Donald Trump is doing, not necessarily because Democrats are enticing them, but because Republicans have pissed them off. Hill Republicans have held separate meetings with White House officials to share their own electoral concerns. This story is based on 8 interviews with home builders, lawmakers, and others familiar with the meetings. I told lawmakers straight up, South Texas will never be red again, said Mario Guerrero, the CEO of South Texas Builders Association. He's a Trump voter, by the way, who traveled to D.C. to talk to Congress. He urged the administration and lawmakers to ease up on enforcements at construction sites. Don't stop your ethnic cleansing. Just stop taking our workers because it's cutting into our bottom line. He warned that his employees were afraid to go to work. Okay, well then fight against a regime that is abducting your employees and stuffing them into concentration camps and ruining their lives. Okay, I won't editorialize so much or I'll never get through this. The construction industry is one of the latest and clearest examples of how the president's mass deportation agenda continues to clash with his economic goals of bringing down prices. Is that really an economic goal of Donald Trump's? Everything he's doing is driving prices up. Pretty sure his goals are enriching himself and his cronies and widespread corruption, not an affordable economy for the working class. But okay. And his other political goal of keeping control of Congress. Well, that's one for sure, right? Even the president's allies fear disruptions to heavy labor industries will undermine the gains with Latino voters Republicans have made in recent years, in large part because of Trump's economic agenda. I also saw somewhere, maybe it was More Perfect Union, that for a lot of Latino voters, the abortion issue was a big reason that they voted for Donald Trump. Okay. These concerns were the central focus of a White House meeting last week between Susie Wiles, Speaker Mike Johnson, and a group of Republican lawmakers, according to 3 people who knew of the meeting. They were given anonymity to discuss it. The group talked about growing concerns that Hispanic voters are abandoning the Republican Party in droves, as well as the policies driving these losses, immigration, and affordability concerns. Rep. Monica de la Cruz, Republican of Texas, was among those in attendance. She, alongside South Texas leaders, held 2 additional meetings this week. Yeah, Republicans in Texas are freaking out that their gerrymandering is not going to work because they did all of that gerrymandering based on the 2024 election map. And now they're finding the demographics are shifting. Those districts, those precincts that formerly went for Donald Trump, especially Hispanic voters going for Donald Trump in 2024, those folks are not cheesed with Republicans, and they are far less likely to vote Republican. And that means they gerrymandered the hell out of their own map, and they turned solidly red districts far more vulnerable in order to create new red districts or get rid of blue districts. Of course, Republican lawmakers are talking about streamlined visas for the construction industry. They're not talking about ending the ethnic cleansing at all. They're not talking about stopping Donald Trump's reign of terror of ICE. They just want special visas for the construction industry. I know that I spent a big chunk of my childhood in Texas, but as a white lady, I don't want to really comment too much. I get questions about it every time I talk about Texas voting and Hispanics voting for Trump. I don't really want to speculate why so many Hispanic voters went for Donald Trump and are not opposed to his immigration agenda, especially Tejanos, and why so many of them work for Customs and Border Patrol. That's a really complicated issue. I do know that a lot of immigrants who came here documented and what they see as through legal processes, right, legal pathways, they have that as a badge of honor, a badge of pride, and they do differentiate themselves from folks who are undocumented. The thing is that the regime is taking people who are here legally, people who are going through the asylum process, people who are here on work visas, people who are here on student visas, who have their green cards, who are married to American citizens. And that's starting to piss off a lot of immigrants who came here the right way. They're realizing that the regime is taking people who came here the right way. Likewise, here, RNC senior advisor Daniel Alvarez said that Trump earned the support of Hispanic voters because he eliminated taxes on tips, that's not quite true, as well as his efforts to lower grocery and gas prices and to provide good paying jobs with upward mobility. He hasn't done any of those things, so they're no longer in support of him. The piece goes on to talk about concerns that districts that went red last time are now going to swing blue. And that's how repression and gerrymandering backfire.